So welcome everyone. I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the July 2nd meeting of Carpinteria Birdwatchers. Hi Brody, good to see you. And today's meeting is going to be, it's another one where I need to kind of thank you for indulging me for being lazy. You know, I didn't really prepare a bird group to talk about. So we'll be doing I'll be giving a trip report about my hike I went on up at Point Sal in sort of the northwestern part of Santa Barbara County. There were some neat grassland birds I saw up there. And I'm encouraging anyone else who has photos or recordings or just, you know, an eBird list or just wants to verbally share. If they have a fun birding outing in the last week or two they want to share about, they could certainly share about that. Brody, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have something to contribute?
Yeah, so the reason that I was not at the last meeting was because I lost track of the date. I thought it was Wednesday. But yeah, so I have drawn a picture of Australian birds.
Oh, awesome. That is very cool. So you've got a bunch of birds in there.
Yeah. Golden bowerbird, the Australian shelduck.
Tell you what, Brody, can you hold on for 1 second?
Yeah.
When we get to the sharing part, I'll go ahead and I'm going to make it so people can screen share if they want. And I don't know if you have an online version of some content you want to show, or if you just want to, you know, hold that up and show it. But we'll give you the spotlight at that point, so you can take your time and really explain everything. So that's great. In fact, we can do that, you know, right at the top of the meeting if you want. If you're ready to go, we'll get right to you once I get through the sort of announcements and stuff.
I also have some real pictures that I printed out. Is that okay?
That's wonderful. Yeah. And you know, if you have them, like you'll see, I've got some stuff I'm going to be sharing just from the computer. I don't know if you have them on your computer, but if you do and you want to, you can do the screen sharing thing and share them that way.
Okay.
So yeah, however you want to do it. And, you know, again, with apologies to everyone that this is not as organized and planned out as I'd like the meetings to be ideally. So there's going to be a little bit of, you know, sort of figuring it out as we go. Okay, we'll get to you shortly, Brody. Andrea, I see you have a hand raised.
Yeah, I was wondering if we had pictures that we took on a trip or something, how would we present them to you?
So, well, we can do it in various ways. Assuming you have photos on your computer or in an eBird list. Traditionally, I've configured these Zoom meetings so that only the host can do screen sharing, which is like a Zoom security, you know, recommendation so that people can't maliciously share inappropriate content in the Zoom meeting. I'm fairly confident there's nobody bothering to show up for our Zoom meetings who's interested in sharing inappropriate content. So what I thought we would do for today is if people have content on their computer, either say an eBird list or photos or recordings, sound recordings or what have you, we'll make it possible for you to share your screen, and we'll just take turns going through the people who want to share, and they can do screen sharing. And then, you know, you as the Zoom user will have the large screen of the screen share and then the video thumbnails, and you can, at least on the desktop Zoom client, you can adjust the screen to give different space to the different things.
So you hit the share screen thing down here?
Right, and I have not enabled it yet, but I will shortly. So that should become
I don't
functional.
have any organized to show, but someday.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to that, certainly. I see that Courtney suggested in the chat, can anyone recommend their favorite mid-priced binoculars for local birding? So that's a good thing we could talk about. You know, Nikon Monarchs are sort of the standard thing that I see people recommending, but that's, you know, 20 years old information I'm offering. If anyone else has been binocular shopping recently and wants to make a suggestion, please unmute and share about your favorite choices for binoculars. Rob, do you have?
I know a lot of people have said that they like Vortex a lot.
Yeah, and I actually have Vortex binoculars. Are my main birding binoculars. I like them. I like I like their no questions asked service policy. They have like a lifetime warranty. You send it in and they'll fix it for you. And you know, mid-priced can be a relative term depending on who's going binocular shopping. You know, my mid-priced is not necessarily someone else's mid-priced. I saw was it Jason Ward, who's the host of, you know, the Birds of North America series on YouTube, and he's active in bird Twitter. He has this really nice new pair of Swarovskis, I think. These really nice new bird binoculars that he's, you know, promoting, that they've given him to test out, and they're like $3,000 or $4,000 for these binoculars. I mean, they're pretty amazing binoculars, but I will not be buying these binoculars. Maybe someday I can borrow them from somebody and check them out, or maybe not, because then I'll just be dissatisfied with my current binoculars. Any other binocular input people want to give? You know, I would just say, if you there's some binocular reviews that Audubon did, and if you know, Google for binoculars for bird watching and just kind of go through the first page of links, you'll probably come across it. There's good information out there. You know, I'd say, you know, be an informed consumer, go research it a little bit. Hey, you're welcome, Courtney. And James, I see you got your hand up. Did you have some input? You're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
I would vote. I mean, the Monarch 7s, as you mentioned, have been a classic for a while, and they seem kind of in the affordable, you know, well, like you say, that's a relative number. I first got some 8x42s for myself, and then later got 8x30s for my wife, a little bit smaller, and they both seem fine. One, this was 4 or 5 years ago, one seemed to be kind of in the $400 range, one seemed to be kind of in the $500 range, just to give you an idea of what it was. So, but we've been happy with them.
Yeah,
so.
And that's my experience, you know, is that's kind of, you know, that price point is where you can start to get some pretty decent binoculars, you know, and as long as you don't, as long as you don't use the $1,000 binoculars and get dissatisfied with your $300 or $400 binoculars, you're
yeah, that's the problem.
Okay. Any other sort of announcements, top of the meeting stuff from anyone else? I'll go ahead and just share a few things real quick. I mentioned last week, I think, about the bird name issues, and the American Ornithological Society has their annual process where they issue their checklist updates. And there's a couple of things that come out of that process. One is the lumps and splits. So this whole idea where, you know, these are the ornithologists deciding which are the birds that will officially be on the checklist as separate species. And so that process for this year just concluded, and there was one lump and one split, I think. And if anyone knows this and can correct me, please do. But I think what we got was Northwestern crow went away. That was lumped in with the American crow, so it's no longer considered a separate species. And Mexican duck was split from the mallard. So that's now a separate species. Rob, you have your hand up. Yeah.
I just lost a life bird. Thanks, John.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Northwestern crow. I was up, where was I? British Columbia, and we were doing a bear watching cruise, and there were crows, and I asked the docent, she said, every crow here is a Northwestern crow. Okay, I got a Northwestern crow. There it goes.
You now have an American crow.
Such is life.
Yeah. No, the A used to be the AOU. The AOS giveth and taketh away. And, you know, there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
On this other aspect of that is the common name. So they also have a committee that does common name updates. And I don't want to spend a lot of time. I don't want to make this a venue for controversy, but there has been an ongoing effort to rename the common names of some birds that people believe are potentially offensive or exclusionary or not as welcoming to other birders. And the basic idea is that, you know, in the 17th and 18th and 19th century, these European explorers, by and large white men, went out and found all these species and gave them names. And in each case, there probably were indigenous people in those areas that had already named these birds. They had perfectly good names. But, you know, there was this effort to name these birds. And in this process, there was the case of eponyms or honorifics, where in many cases, the people naming these newly discovered species would give them a name that celebrated the person who collected the bird or shot the bird, or a friend of the person who was describing the bird, or various other ways they would honor people by naming a bird after them. So we have all these birds like McCown's longspur named after McCown, and there's lots of others. And it's a little bit of a controversy now, and people are saying things like, well, McCown was an army officer in the Confederacy, and this is sort of akin to Confederate monuments, and we shouldn't be celebrating people who fought on the side of slavery. Or there's a larger argument that, well, but this just tends to make the activity less welcoming to populations that have historically been excluded from the activity. Anyway, there's a lot of sort of interesting information about this, and there's this annual process to suggest name changes. And in this year's process, the AOS, the American Ornithological Society, has made a response where they have said, oh, last year this was suggested that McCown's longspur be renamed. We made a decision not to, but now we are revisiting that decision. So they've modified their policy. So they've now put in place a policy that says they can consider things like cultural concerns and different things. You can see their description of it. Anyway, if you find this interesting at all, I put some links in the description of the YouTube live stream and in the blog post at carpet-outcars.org that describes this meeting. And you can go check that out and see what people are saying about it. I find it interesting, but then I'm, kind of obsessive in my interest in bird-related things. So I don't want to take up more of this meeting with it, but that information is there, and I encourage you to go check it out if you're interested, and potentially to prepare yourself for, at some point over the next few years, maybe a fairly extensive renaming of the honorific bird names. All those '(s) bird names could find themselves going out. So I thought that was fun. And let's see, was there anything else I wanted to mention real quickly? There's a few other links I put in the, one other link that I put in the description. And it's a link to a Macaulay Library page with tutorials on recording and sharing bird recordings. In the recording that I'm going to be doing, excuse me, in the sharing that I'm going to be doing about my birdwatch outing at Point Sal, I'm going to play recordings that I recorded. And I know people have asked in the past about, oh, how do you make these recordings, or how do you share these recordings? So there's a link to good information about that. So if you're interested in that question, you can follow that link. Okay, anything else before we get started with the program proper? I see no hands up. I see a mention in the chat. What was said in the chat? Butterfly had a link in the chat. Oh yeah, a feature on Drew Lanham, who's an African-American ornithologist and birder who has been involved in some of this discussion. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I found it, myself very interesting to sort of follow I talked before about Black Birders Week, and just to kind of consider the perspective of people who, share my love of the activity, but have had a very different experience of how inclusive it is, or how exclusive it can be. And certainly I encourage people to check that out. Okay, so we're going to do sharing. So I said, Brody, that you could go first. Do you have content on your computer, like photos on your computer that you want to share that way? Or how do you want to approach it? I'll make it possible for you to share your screen if you want.
I already printed out all the photos, so I'll just share the photos that I have.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch the meeting into speaker view, which I don't think will matter for most of the people participating here, but it will make your screen larger in the YouTube live stream, so that will be helpful.
So first I have my Australian birds. I looked up all of them, and all of them do live there, plus all the plants too.
Well, that's quite a lot of work. You have a lot of birds in there. How long did it take you to make that?
About a day or two.
That's very impressive. And what sort of materials did you use to create the artwork? Like
I used some pens and then large crayons.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Laurel is saying she's not seen him.
I'm not seeing him either.
Is anyone else not seen? James is not seen Brody.
I don't.
Look up in the top. It'll show speaker view.
What was that, Tom?
And you can press
Oh,
speaker
just
view.
press that little button and it'll bring you to me.
So I've just taken it out of speaker view into gallery view. Does that make a difference for people who are not seeing him?
I'm
Doesn't
just
make any
seeing
difference?
you.
I'm just, yeah.
Yeah. So the Zoom
I
experience
see
for
Brody.
okay, the Zoom experience if you're on a mobile device like an iPad is significantly different than if you're on a computer. So it's hard for me to first. It's just hard for me to tell what you're seeing at your end to begin with. But if you're using a mobile device, it's especially tricky for me. Okay, well, I'm going to try going back into speaker view, and I'll see if that.
John,
Yeah, Laurel.
if they go and put this instead of, they're probably on gallery view, they need to go to speaker view because now I can see them.
Okay, and that's
So
something.
Switches to gallery view. I mean, to speaker view.
To speaker view, and that's something you're doing in a like a mobile device, like an iPad.
iPad, yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation is to switch to speaker view rather than gallery view. So, okay, I have gone ahead and done that. Brody, do you have more to show besides your painting?
You have to put him in the screen though. You're in the screen now for the big picture.
Okay,
Me?
if Brody talks, I think it'll make him.
I could see
Yeah.
Brody before
Okay.
he was in the big picture.
Okay,
So
so-
you need to put him back in the big picture.
Oh, I can actually do that from my end. I can make him the highlighted video. That's right. Spotlight video. Let me do that.
Oh, there we go.
There,
Okay, I have
Yeah.
spotlighted Brody. Does that help, folks?
big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see
Okay.
myself now too. So
My
here's
apologies to everyone.
That's okay.
Cooper's Hawk that I saw yesterday. It was just a little tree getting some house finches, trying to get some house finches.
Did you see it actually succeed in getting a house finch?
No,
Brody?
it did not succeed, I don't think. Unless it got one of the young ones and I did not see. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a Cooper's Hawk. I also have some house finches up at some of my new feeders.
Wow, you've got an extensive feeder setup.
Yeah, I have some sunflowers which have been the most popular. I've had a few lesser goldfinch and house finch, but that's almost it. I have two little some lesser goldfinch picture right here. It's just over by our house. Another lesser. It's just in one of our palm trees. A red-crested cardinal that we saw in Hawaii on Diamond Head.
I was going to say, I was going to get very excited if you saw that around here.
Yeah, yeah. My grandpa wanted me to look for them, and I found one. This was one before that, and it was just on Kotlani, and another red-crested cardinal. We found a Hawaiian gallinule at Waimea Falls in Hawaii.
Neat.
And then one last picture of that same lesser goldfinch. Just fluffing it.
Well, that is very cool. Thank you for sharing those, Brody. Did you have more to share, or is that basically it for you for now?
No, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very
Oh,
much.
and one of my stories that I had was, it was sort of related to not our last one, but the one before was the, owls. There was a great horned owl, that got caught in the barbed wire that we keep our horses in. It got stuck. Its wing got stuck in there, and so my mom saw it. We figured out that it was a great horned owl. Its wing got caught in the barbed wire. My mom had called someone and got it taken out. They fixed it, and they got it all better.
Well, that's great. Yeah, thank you. Again, I think you mentioned this story or a similar story in a previous meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad to hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Okay, well, thank you again.
And I also I watched the whole thing on Friday of the grassland birds.
Oh, so you ended up watching that after the fact.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I guess I will go next and share my Point Sal outing from last Saturday. But if there's other people who have, again, an eBird list or photos, I believe Rob maybe was going to be able to share some stuff. Okay, I see nods. That's good. So we'll get to Rob. And I think Tom had some stuff as well. Tom Balan, that's great. I was going to see if Suzanne might be willing to share some of her cool content, because I know you have a lot of great photos, because I see them every day on eBird when I look through what's been posted during the day. So I don't know if you want to, but if
I would love to share some, because I have a little observation I made, which was interesting. A couple of days ago at Sands Beach, there was an osprey who, so that those pictures are on eBird. I don't know if you can find them.
yeah, I totally can. And if you want me to do it that way, I can show them, and you can sort of narrate what you. This was the one where the osprey was taking the nesting material off the beach.
Yeah, but I never saw that before happening. I wonder whether that's something common or not. But
okay, well, why don't we look at that right now, and then I'll go on to my Point Sal stuff, if that works for people.
If you can find it.
Sure. Yeah, and this will be a little impromptu eBird tutorial, because we'll go dig it up. And again, it's not a very prepared, I did not prepare as well as I'd like to for this meeting. So there's going to be a little bit of, seeing how the gears work as we work our way through it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I am going to share my browser windows, what I want to do, I think. And I'm going to share computer sound, and I'm going to optimize for video clips. All right, so you're looking at my checklist in Trello, which is not very helpful, but let's go look at eBird. Okay, so we want to find this list from last week, and I can find that by exploring and going to Santa Barbara. And I'm sort of narrating what I'm doing, because this makes it sort of like educational eBird content. Okay, let's see if we can find, so we'll go in recent visits, which I think gives us about a week's worth. Was this?
Wow, you got 509 species in one day, huh?
Yeah, no, not in one day.
That's impressive.
The hotspot is, what is it called? Sands Beach.
Yeah, so this was, I thought this was like at Goleta, like Goleta Beach State Park?
Coal Oil Point. It
was at Coal Oil Point?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna look for Coal Oil Point. There's David Blue.
Is that Sands Beach, the one that you pass before you get into the university?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to that hotspot by clicking through to this other person's visit, and then I can look at recent visits for there, and there you are. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, I liked your photos from this checklist a lot. I had a really good time looking at these, so maybe we can just go through them. But then you've got the osprey. So you wanted to talk about the osprey specifically?
Yeah, let's do the osprey first.
Okay, so it's taking a second to load, but if we are patient enough, we will get the osprey photos. All right, so again, apologies for my slow internet connection. So can you all see that? The osprey is eating the fish there on the perch?
Yes.
So so this was, you say this was at Coal Oil Point and Sands Beach. Where were you actually, where was this, like up on the headland there is where you saw the osprey?
I was just walking up the walkway towards where the buildings are, and up on this dead tree it was eating right at the entrance of there.
Yeah, I really love this photo. It's just a great shot of the osprey, and a sad shot for the fish and the fish's loved ones, but
So I saw this osprey eating a fish, and then the sun came from the right side, and I thought, this is cool.
Really nice lighting. I'm very appreciative of the nice lighting.
Longest lens, but I got this. I thought I post these two pictures.
It's fabulous the way the feathers are, the layers of feathers are so clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can really see other groups there, the coverts, and no, it's really nice. So then you had this down near the beach, right?
Then I was on the beach, and I was looking for snowy plover chicks mostly, because they are really nice to take photos, and you have to take pictures of them from a distance. Then further in the distance, I saw this osprey sitting there in the slow mouse. There it's again. I said, well, is
Okay.
something wrong with it, or what's going on with it? Then I saw it flying up. Again, I looked at something else and I thought, oh, what is this big bird? There was the osprey flying right into this really pretty crowded beach of all these people walking around and didn't seem to care about all those people. And it grabbed something. I was wondering whether it's going to grab a little dog or something, but no, it was. I know it would. It's fish, but not dogs. So so the next picture shows what it's grabbing. It's grabbing seaweed.
Yeah.
There.
Wow.
And flies off with it. And I've never seen. I was wondering, do they have people watched that or seen it before? Do they do it for fun, or is it nesting material? So
yeah, my assumption is it's nesting material. I've seen ospreys carrying sticks, and certainly they make big, bulky platform nests with lots of sticks in them. And but I don't know anything beyond that. If anyone else has osprey knowledge that they can share, please chime in.
So
that is very cool. Thank you for sharing that. And then I want to look at your snowy plover chicks because they're just the cutest thing.
Yeah, plover chicks are so cute.
That is just great. So we got the little chick here and parent here.
Yeah, I used to be a snowy plover docent for I think 9 years or 8 years something. And since I have my dog, I can't do it anymore. But they're just so precious. But it's also always a little bit humbling story with those because there is so much predation. They recently lost 17 chicks. So it's really something. And they make such an effort trying to protect them, but crows or whatever comes, get them.
Yeah, I've heard crows, skunks, and
yeah.
Anything else that, I mean, and then people like they've got dogs off leash or whatever can be a problem too, but it's.
Yeah, but it's mostly crows. And I think one year they also had great horned owls, but I got noticed that they were getting them. And they actually caught 1 or 2 of the owls and relocated them way into the mountains. So,
interesting.
Trying, but I know the great horned owls are also nesting not far away. So anyways, whatever. But they're cute. And then the black turnstone was kind of in stress because of all the people on the beach. So it was just trying to, whatever, do its business, but had a hard time.
And, you know, when I saw this, I checked in Paul Lehman's Birds of Santa Barbara County, and this is, you know, a pretty unusual sighting for this time of year. You know, those turnstones are supposed to be up north of here right now, right? This is a very early date for one of them to be back.
Oh, yeah, it's listed as a, what is it, rare species.
Right, yeah, the eBird filters, I think probably, you know, in a month or two, they won't flag it at all. They'll be like, oh yeah, black turnstone, but this time of year, that's quite unusual. And again, you know, excellent documentation. So there's no doubt about what it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Some other time I can be better prepared. So thank you for sharing.
Well, this was great. I enjoyed this a lot. Okay, so I'll go ahead now and talk kind of quickly about my trip. So, you know, we talked about grassland birds last time. And as part of that, I showed some of my favorite places in Santa Barbara County to go see grassland birds. And one of them was the Point Sal Trail that I realized I hadn't been to in basically a year. I went back and looked in eBird and saw that, oh yeah, the last time I was there was a year ago, right around this time. So I was excited, and you know, Saturday came and I didn't have anything else going on, and I thought, you know, I could go on a longer excursion. Like a lot of people, I've been limiting my running around, you know, traveling for unnecessary reasons as part of the coronavirus response. But I thought, well, I'll just drive up there and I'll just be by myself and I won't interact with people. So I thought that was okay because I wanted to go there. So I rationed.
John, could you tell us where it is?
Yeah. So let me do that first. And again, I'm just sort of doing this on the fly. We'll go look at Google Maps and zoom out and go for the satellite view. So here we are looking at Santa Barbara County, and we're down here in Carpinteria. And where this is up at the northern edge of Vandenberg Air Force Base. And it's just a little bit south of Guadalupe, so it's kind of right in here. And basically what you can do is you can come up. So what I did is I took the 101 up to the 154, which takes you up past Lake Kachuma, and then goes up and joins up with the 101. And up here you get off on, I want to say, the 135, and it becomes the 1, something like that. I put it in Google Maps and I follow the directions. I'm not really navigating in any sophisticated way. But eventually you come up here and you get to Brown Road. So we kind of get in here closer and sort of show you what it's like. So you take Brown Road. Someone has house finches. And as much as I love the house finches, maybe we can mute the house finches. Thanks. And you follow Brown Road and it goes down through this valley. And there's actually, some cool riparian habitat along here. And I've never birded it myself, but I've seen eBird lists from the people who bird there more frequently. And so it's kind of a neat spot. But at the end of this road, as you come up here, in fact, here, I'll do one more thing to kind of make it fun. I'll switch into street view so you can kind of see what it looks like from ground level. So you come in like this, and this is this little riparian corridor here along it. But if you follow up the road, eventually you come into this valley. And the road eventually, as we get way up here we'll drive at like 300 miles an hour. You come up here and the road ends. And at this time when the Google Street View car was there, it ended out here. These days you can drive all the way up to this gate up here. So I'm not sure how clear that is for people watching, but anyway, that's where I started. And so from there, here I'll back out so we can kind of go back into an overhead view. So this is the trailhead for the Point Sal Trail. And these days it's only a hiking trail. It used to be you could drive it, and it used to be there was road access up this road all the way down to the beach here, and it was a popular place for people to drive to. And this was the Point Sal State Beach. But I want to say in 1998 or thereabouts, it was washed out by storms. And it wasn't until 2008 that they opened it up again, but only for hikers at this point. So you're not allowed to take bikes on it. You're only allowed to hike. And you basically can hike up this dirt road, and it goes up here and then it switches back, and there's all this neat grassland here, and you follow it up. And at this point you go through a gate that brings you into Vandenberg Air Force Base. And there's lots of scary signage telling you not to leave the road. You're allowed to use the road unless they're closing the base for a rocket launch, in which case they'll come collect you and send you out. But as long as you stay on the road, you're good. And you travel down this road and you hike and you wind around a lot. And eventually you can end up down here on what's called Browns Beach. So that was my trip that I took. And the last time I did this trip a year ago, and I had never gone all the way to the beach before. And I thought, well, I really want to go all the way to the beach. Last year, I brought my spotting scope with me. And I ended up deciding that was a mistake because I got about halfway there and I'm like, this is a long hike. It's about 6 miles as you walk the trail one way. And there's about a 1,400-foot elevation gain and loss. You gain about 400 feet going up to the crest, and then about 1,000 feet down to the beach. So you put all that together, and if one is not in good shape, and I'm pretty soft these days. I haven't done as much hiking as I've done in the past, or go to the gym. I'll blame it on the coronavirus, but it's just me being slothful. It was a challenging trip. And so a year ago, I didn't make it all the way. I turned around partway there. This year I said, okay, I'll leave the spotting scope so I'm more mobile. And I did make it all the way to the beach. It was still kind of strenuous for me, and I wish I was in better shape. And I was not as good a bird watcher on the return trip as I was on the trip out, just because I was very tired. But I'll share, let's see, I'll share some photos. That'll be fun. So before I show the eBird list, I'll show the photos that I took. And this will take a second. Let me switch to that window in the share. Here we go. Yeah, this will work. Okay, so if I've done this correctly, you're now seeing my photos. So do you see a foggy trail? So it turns out it was quite foggy. So I was basically, I left the house at about 4:15 in the morning because I wanted to be there right at the crack of dawn because that's the best birding time. So, I set my alarm, and, driving across the county when it's still dark out is kind of a thing I used to do a lot of over the last few years, but not so much lately. But I did it this time. So I got there right around 6 o'clock. I started, and it was just socked in with fog. And so this is kind of what it looked like as I was hiking my way up the trail. And I think, if I had not been birding as actively for the last several years and getting as familiar with the local bird vocalizations as I have over the last several years, they would have been more frustrating. But as it was actually really nice. I mean, I could hear the birds. I was recording lots of birds that I was hearing. And it was kind of a pleasant hike because it never got really hot because I was hiking through fog. But this is what it looked like going up the trail. And let's see if I can go on to the next one. Yeah, and an interesting thing is there's a lot of lichen, and I guess this fog tends to promote the growth of lichen. So on this, I really liked, these lichen on this fence post. I'm not going to talk about lichen, but I don't know if maybe one time we can get Andrea to talk about lichen. Are you still in the meeting, Andrea? I don't see you in my thumbnails. But
Yes.
So can I pester you for lichen information in a future meeting?
I'll loan you the one book I have on the lichen of Santa Barbara, and you can figure it out.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I'll pester you outside the meeting for that book because I would love to read that. But this is just an example of what I was hiking through. This is kind of up near the crest. And then this is going down on the western side. So now I kind of started to get below the cloud cover, and I could start to see, which was fun. And this is kind of a neat thing. I did some research. This is actually an old Minuteman missile test pad, and they used this to do Minuteman launches starting in 1966 through about, I think it was 2006 is when they decommissioned it. So you can see these pads out there on the Vandenberg part of the property, which again, you're not supposed to be visiting, but you can see them. And then this is getting a little lower, and you can see that I'm below the cloud layer here, and you can start to see the beach. There's a lot of giant coreopsis growing here, which again, Andrea, I'd love to pester you for more info about this, but it's like a big yellow flower that's, in this region. I know it's out on Santa Cruz Island, and it's here in this coastal area. It wasn't blooming when I was there, so I'm not even sure which of this is the giant coreopsis, but it's in there supposedly.
It's the dark brown things.
Okay. So like these over here on the right side and this over here on the left. Yeah.
They bloom February usually, sometime late January.
Cool.
And then they do this for the summer. They're pretty, and they start to get their leaves again when it rains.
Cool. So this is actually down on the beach. And you can see it's a lovely beach. There were maybe about half a dozen people were there at the time I was there. Like I was the first one on the trail when and you can't park overnight or camp. So, there were no cars there when I got there at like 5:50 a.m. But then I was slow on the trail because I was birding. So people started to overtake me and pass me. And a few groups were on the beach ahead of me, and then a few more groups arrived when I was there. And you can't really see it too well here, but there were birds, offshore. There was big rafts of western grebes and flock of, well, you'll see the eBird list in a minute. This is another cool, this is on an oak trunk on the way back, a close-up of some more lichen. So once I get a hold of Andrea's book, I'll maybe be able to key some of these out and look at their different forms and figure out what I was looking at, but I just thought it was amazing. And this is coming back down the trail. So this is what was foggy in that first picture. This is what it looks like when it's not foggy. So I'm descending back down into the valley where I parked. And there's a view of the parking area again as I'm descending. So those are the photos. And I'm going to switch back to my browser window now so I can show you the eBird list. Okay, so let me go back down. So I did something that I'm doing more of these days. Like here's my first list at 5:58 a.m. I broke it up. So I could have just done one eBird list for the whole day, but the eBird people prefer, if you're willing to, that you give them more, more granularity than that. They like lots of little lists, more than one big list. So I made a list for the trip up to the crest, to the Vandenberg Gate, basically. And then I made another trip for the trip, another list for the trip down from the gate to the beach, another list for the beach, and then 2 more lists on the way back. So if I go through those, be able to see what I had. So on the trip up, I've got no photos because again, it was foggy. I only saw a few birds. I saw this, a northern harrier, a brown female type bird, I called it, because the immatures kind of look similar and I didn't get a good enough look to try to determine which it was. But, came out of the fog and swooped in front of me and swooped away. So I did see that bird. I saw a few other birds, but most of these were just heard. And I'm going to try, I think I did share the audio, so see if you can hear this. Thumbs up if you can hear that wren scolding me. So that's a Buick's wren, which I did see briefly, so I was okay with calling it. I mean, I'm still learning my differentiating between house wren and Buick's wren, but this was a Buick's wren. And here's I think it's the same Buick's wren or a different Buick's wren actually singing. And which is this? And then I've got grasshopper sparrows that I was. So there are some birds in the background here. And again, I don't know how well you can hear this at your end, but there's, I think there's a wren tit in the background and there's a Buick's wren in the background, but the grasshopper sparrow is that high buzzing sound. It's like tick, tick, bzzz. Okay. There's one more coming up. Here's another grasshopper sparrow with a lot of crickets. And a western meadowlark also. So again, there was a lot of bird song going on. It was really cool.
Were you able to edit this?
Was I able to edit it?
Edit the audio portion.
Yeah. So maybe that would be an interesting subject for a future meeting. I could talk about the process I use. But just in brief, I record it with my phone in the field and a little external microphone. I get back home and I put it on my computer. I pull it into a program called Audacity, which is just a free sound editing package. And then I try and pick out the part that's, that I want to actually share. So it's where you can hear the bird clearly. I will amplify it. So usually I have to increase the volume. So, it's noise and you hear like noise, it's by default, it records it at a level that you don't hear a lot of background noise, but then often the bird is kind of hard to hear. So I amplify it so it's louder. And then typically I'll put a fade in and a fade out on each end of it. So that's really all the editing I do. But then you can upload it to eBird the same way you upload photos. I'll do one more of the song, grasshopper sparrows. All right, since I talked over it, I'll do one more of the grasshopper sparrows. I really like listening to the grasshopper sparrows. So again, and I wasn't really seeing them because this was still in the fog. Here's a western meadowlark recording. I think they're fun to listen to too. There were several of them around me at this point.
The sonogram's amazing.
Yeah. And then this cricket started to kick in. Yeah, I find that being able to listen to the recording and see the sonogram that eBird will put under it when you upload it is really helpful for me. Like I can pick things out or recognize similarities between different sounds that I'm hearing. It's very useful. Is there anything else I'm going to share? Oh, and I'll do this blue grosbeak singing. And the meadowlark also. Another meadowlark, and then here comes the blue grosbeak again. And, you know, it's not a bird that I'm that familiar with, but I felt really lucky because the week before, I mentioned at the last meeting, we were on this trip where we went up to Cambria and had a blue grosbeak just hanging out right near the place we were staying. So I got to hear it singing a lot. So it made me more comfortable going, oh yeah, it's a blue grosbeak. I still wanted to see it, you know, to confirm, because I wasn't positive. But we'll get to that. Once the fog lifts, I got a better look at it. Oh, and then here's a recording of the lazuli bunting I heard singing. This was fun too. Which again, we had singing at this trip we were on just the week before, so I felt more confident than I otherwise would have been. Okay, so that was the eBird list for the hike up to the Vandenberg Gate. Then I have the list for the hike down from the Vandenberg Gate. And I'm going to go through this one more quickly. One thing that was fun was there were white-crowned sparrows singing. So I've talked about this before, that here in Carpinteria, the south coast in Santa Barbara County, they all leave. The white-crowned sparrows don't breed here, right? But in the north part of Santa Barbara County, they are there and they're breeding. So there were white-crowned sparrows singing, which was fun. And they sing in their non-breeding territory a lot too. So we'll be hearing that song again shortly once they all come back here. But for now, if you want to hear that, you need to go a little bit north. And let's see, what else do I want to share here? Spotted towhee, blue grosbeak. So this blue grosbeak was interesting. It was real close to the trail and I'd come out of the fog at this point. So I was trying to see it and I couldn't see it, but I did make an audio recording of it. Fast forward. So I spent, you know, a good 5 minutes trying to see this bird, but I just could never pick it out in the foliage. So remember that. We're going to come back to that on the list when I come back up, because I think I did see the same bird eventually. I had a view of some of the cormorants that were out in the bay. And, you know, again, I was lazy. I didn't really try to identify them to species. I didn't have my spotting scope. They were a long way away. I think they were almost all Brandt's cormorants. I think there were probably a few pelagic cormorants in there too. Like in this photo, this one looks a little pelagic-y. It's a little thinner maybe, but I didn't, you know, I feel guilty that I didn't really spend a lot of time trying to sift through these cormorants. There's that one in flight. Pretty sure that's a Brandt's cormorant, but, you know, I didn't, you know, I was already starting to get tired at this point. So I was not birding as actively as I was earlier. Here's my list down on the beach. There's this flock of surf scoters were right near the beach, which was kind of fun. When there were no people nearby, they actually were coming onto the sand, and I think they were eating sand crabs. I think they were actually getting sand crabs from the beach there. This one I was really interested in. I really wanted to try and make this into a female black scoter, but it was a female surf scoter. Just happened to look a little bit different than the other ones, is what I think now. Did I have anything else that was fun to share? You know, same story as with the cormorants. I think they were almost all Western grebes, but I just couldn't be bothered to try and really study them. So I just put them down as Western/Clark's grebes. There may have been a Clark's grebe or two in there, but I didn't see one. But I was just not really trying that hard. Black oyster catchers were fun to see. You know, again, you go up the coast. And we have actually some black oyster catchers around the Seal overlook here in Carp lately. So they're, you know, a little bit unusual birds for on the mainland here. And oh, and a couple of pigeon guillemots out in the grebe flock. So that was fun to see. And they left shortly after I took this photo, so I was glad that I paid attention to them. And there were some gulls on the beach. You know, nice looking Heermann's gull, adult Heermann's gull, some very scruffy California gulls. I think the gulls are kind of, you know, they're in their kind of molting phase now. Like we're starting to get some better looking feathers on this gull, but most of those feathers are very old and very worn. I'm looking forward to winter or fall when we can start to see some snazzy looking gulls again. And a few what I think are red-throated loons, although again, they were kind of far away and I wasn't really, I studied them pretty carefully, but I'm pretty sure we've got red-throated loons there. Okay. bunch of other stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and keep on going. So this is the hike back up, and I'm just going to focus in on this image. So this was a bird that was singing in the exact same spot where I tried to see the blue grosbeak on the way down. So I think what this is a first-year male blue grosbeak. So it's kind of got the blue head, but still very kind of brownish and dingy on the rest of it. And it was singing away. So I was happy to have that mystery resolved and get some visual confirmation that yes, these things I've been listing as blue grosbeaks are in fact blue grosbeaks. Yeah, Rob.
I'm just wondering if the young males sing the full song, or are they one of the species that have to learn and practice?
Yeah, I don't know enough to say. If this was the same bird that I recorded, a couple hours earlier on my walk down, it was in the same location. I have the examples there. You can hear the recording. I played it earlier.
Mhm.
To me, it sounds like the full song, but
Yeah.
I'm very much not an expert on blue grosbeaks.
Okay,
So
thanks.
it's a good question, but I don't really have a good answer. And then the last list, as I was heading down, I finally got to see one of these grasshopper sparrows. So it's not a great photo, but it was up there singing, and I managed to get a couple of photos of it. So this is your grasshopper sparrow that, most of the year is very hard to even get any look at it. But when they're singing on their breeding territory, they will pop up into view and announce their presence so you can get a look at them. And that is basically it for my fun outing to Point Sal. I mentioned already, it was kind of a strenuous hike, and you do have to get out of there by sundown. So I'd encourage you, if you want to go there, to start early, bring lots of water. You don't want to be running out of water. And if you're in good shape, do the whole thing. If you're like me, maybe don't try so hard to do the whole thing. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have tried to do the whole thing because I was pretty wiped out the next day. And I guess one other caution, it is tick season. I pulled 3 ticks off myself after that hike. So figure that's worth mentioning. And again, I wasn't going through the brush. That was just walking along the road for the most part. Okay, so I will stop that screen share. Anybody else have some stuff they want to share? I know, Rob, you had some photos. Can we?
Yeah.
So I'm going to enable, let's see, all participants can now screen share. So you should be able to share your screen with us and show us your photos or whatever you have there.
So should you be able to see my screen now?
Well, you have to go through a step where you tell it what to share. So it's going to ask you, share the whole desktop, share an individual, like a browser, a web browser window.
I need to be able to see part of my desktop because I have my previewed pictures there.
Okay.
So what should I do?
I would say pull up whatever the window is that you want to share. So it's on your screen and you can see it. Like, we won't see it yet, but then use the green share screen button that, in my case at least, is in the bottom of my Zoom window.
I did that.
Okay, and it'll give you a window that asks you to select the thing you're going to share, and you need to highlight the thing you're going to share, and then there's a share button down in the corner that you're going to hit.
Open system preferences.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. We don't
Cancel.
want that.
Can I move this? Oh, I'll just move this out of the way. How's that?
Whatever works. And
can you see the vermilion flycatcher?
no, we're not. You're not sharing your screen yet.
I'm not sharing my screen.
We'll give it a few more seconds. Again, we're working this out. I appreciate everyone's patience. If it doesn't work, if we have a few more seconds, we can go ahead and
optimize screen share for video clip.
So that's the right window. You're in the right place. You can optimize if you want. That part isn't as important, but then there should be a button in that window that lets you actually share, like down in the corner.
The one that says share.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I get something that lets me choose between cancel and open system preferences.
So maybe it isn't quite ready for you to do the sharing. There's some other step that we have to take care of that I didn't see because I've already done it.
Open preferences. How's that?
Maybe you have to grant it permission to share or something like that.
I may have just done that. Any luck?
Yeah, not yet. Okay, well,
Plan B?
Appreciate the effort. We'll come back to this maybe for the next meeting or a future meeting. I'll get together with you offline and we'll work it out. So we're not just, going through
Right.
this process for everybody.
Okay.
But thank you for the effort. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing these photos at a future meeting.
Okay.
So Tom, I know, were you going to be able to share? Did you have some stuff you wanted to show us?
I think it's a little late, so I think maybe I'll say mine also.
Okay. So as usual, I start talking about birds and I lose track of time, and it's like, it's an hour later, like here we are still talking about birds. Brody, I see you have your hand up.
Love it.
One last thing that I've seen at my house is a spice finch.
So tell me more about this. Is this like maybe I know there's the nutmeg mannequins, they're called sometimes, or the scaly breasted munia is another name for it?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Yeah, they're like these little, like they're really stubby little finches with a big thick beak.
With a black beak, right?
I think it is
Yeah.
a dark beak. I don't know them as well as I should. And the adult ones have this like sort of scaly pattern on the.
Yeah, they do.
area.
Yeah.
The
I've seen a
males.
few.
Yeah.
Just the males.
So you have those.
Yeah, I've had a few, yes.
Neat. Yeah, that's one of those species that, they're officially countable now. You can put them on your list, but they're an introduced species. Presumably they
Yeah,
were.
I heard they were from I forget where they're from, but they were introduced, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's very cool. Yeah, no, and that's an exciting thing that, the birds that were around when I was first bird watching around here, some of them are not here anymore, but other species are here that weren't here then. So it's always, interesting, and there's new stuff out there. Okay, so anything else anybody would like to contribute before we call an end to the meeting?
I just want to thank Brody again for showing his paintings and photographs. They were great. Thank you, Brody.
Yeah, I hope that it will work. And, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll share that. Thank you for showing that. I guess there's one other thing I was going to mention that I forgot to mention in the top of the meeting stuff. We've had some discussions. Things are opening up in terms of, more businesses are operating. Not clear how exactly that's going to go. But it could be that there's people who cannot come to these meetings at the usual time because they're back at work. So we could maybe think about doing the meetings later. Now, obviously, anyone who has that issue is probably not here. So it's not really the right context for me to look for people who want that. But I can ask the people who are here, would you object to that? If these meetings were a little later in the day, like we used to do the meetings at the library, it was like, I think when was it? Like 6 o'clock?
That's all right.
30.
Okay, yeah, it's all right.
Anyway, give that some thought, and I'll coordinate with Tom, and we'll maybe send out an email and get feedback from people about possibly rescheduling the meeting. And then another thing in the same vein, maybe we should look at backing off on the frequency of the meetings. We've been doing them every week, maybe every 2 weeks might work better. I could spend more time on better preparation, so it wasn't just this kind of, oh, we can put on a play in the barn, kind of thing. But we'll put that in the email too. We'll get feedback on that and see what people think. Okay, and I see there are some chat messages that maybe I ignored earlier. Oh, that was trying to help when we were doing the screen sharing with Rob. But there was a question from Butterfly. Could you see the beach view when up on the trail? Yes, I could, based on the fog situation. So again, on the way up, it was foggy the whole way until I was on my way down, and on the way back, I think I re-entered the clouds at an elevation of about 700 feet. So I was in clouds up to the crest of the hill at 1,000 feet elevation, and then shortly after the crest, the fog all dissipated. So it was clear and sunny on the trip back down to the parking area. But yeah. Okay, well, thank you everybody very much. I appreciate everybody, putting up with the slight degree of disorganization. It was a lot of fun, and look for an email about, future plans and when the next meeting day will be and what we'll talk about there.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
John, do you have the
See you next time.
do you have the time and inclination to work on the screen sharing thing? Butterfly suggested going to Zoom US, then resources, then screen sharing information.
Sure, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting
I'll see
officially.
what I can find, Rob, and then because I was recently in a webinar and a Zoom training, I'll see in my notes what I could find and see if I can't send you guys a link for that information. It's supposed to be
Great.
pretty easy.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you very much, Butterfly. And again, thank you,
You're
Rob, for,
welcome.
Thanks.
setting up. So long, Brody. Yeah, thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
showing up.
Brody, the artist.
Thank you.
So John, do you want to do this now or some other time?
Let me do this. I'm going to officially end the meeting because I want to start there's a process it goes through with saving the meeting and ending the live stream. And then I'll restart the meeting. If you can rejoin in about 5 minutes at the same link, we can go through it and discuss it. Is that
Okay,
okay, Rob?
that's
Okay.
good.
So I'm going to kick you out, but you can come back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.